try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badge of name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. The stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives we can't just weep. Elected power, but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they try to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight. The heroes undo the harm, calling out corruption. We'll stand tall for justice and truth. We'll risk it all. My life mattered is the cry we sing. Together we rise, let freedom ring.
Greetings and good evening, justice seekers and social change warriors. Welcome back to another episode of Friday Night Lies, presented by social change warriors, justice seekers, and myself, Catherine Felton Page, retired police officer and community social worker with a background working with domestic violence victims, survivors, and homicide. Sadly, the families of homicide victims. Welcome back. Great to have you all here again. This is our last episode of 2025. I have a lot of traveling coming up for the holidays and a lot going on, and I will certainly miss you all, but I will be back right after the new year, unless something breaks, if something really crazy happens between now and January the 3rd, which is my sister's birthday. I won't be living, but I'll be on the socials and keeping you updated on things I find out on our advocacy end for our victims of homicides and their families. But I won't be live streaming again until after the holidays, unless something really, really ridiculous happens. And then I may have to do one, and I'll let you know. Of course, I'll post it. So thanks for coming. Thanks for all your support in 2025. I have truly appreciated it more than you will ever know. Getting to know as many of the 1,000 over 100 now that we have as our subscribers on our nice, as many of the other streamers like to call those of us with only, around 1,000 tiny little channels. But we don't care, because we're not here to make waves. We are here to advocate for the families of victims, their family members were victims of a homicide. Their life was cut short by the hands of someone else. And we have to do it. We have to come together as communities and stand with these people. These are your friends, your neighbors, sometimes your family members, your relatives that have lost a dear person in their life because of the hands of someone else, because someone put hands on someone and they unalived them. And that's just not, we can't stand for that. We have to advocate for them. We have to help them the best we can to support them emotionally, support them with our advocacy if they haven't found justice, and then continue to support them afterwards by mentioning their loved ones whenever we can on this advocacy channel, because that's what we're here for. We're here to advocate for the families who have lost a loved one by the hands of someone else. And I appreciate you all so much for being with me this last year and a half. And 2024 was when we got started. It's hard to believe. And 2025 has now come and gone. So we're pretty, well, Social Change Warriors got started in 2021. We just weren't covering true crime, but we were doing advocacy and domestic violence and other social causes and laws that we were talking about. So we were up and running and doing a lot. We just weren't in the true crime genre element as much as we are now, and we weren't live streaming. We were doing pre-recordeds. So welcome. Hello, great to see you, Tracy. Great to see you. Thank you so much for coming. And for all of you that'll be popping in and out tonight, I realize there's a lot of stuff going on, holiday parties. So welcome, replay. Always happy to have you. Grateful to get your comments. There were some good ones from last week with Grant Smith Ellis as our guest out of Massachusetts. And we also have a guest tonight that'll be joining us in a little while. So let me just pop up my good old that you guys love. I know some of you hate it, but I love my decks because they keep me organized and they help me keep on track, because I like to stay on time the best I can so I don't go too long. Now, Grant and I were only planning to go 2 hours last week because he had live streamed for 8 hours, and we just got on a roll doing our debating and our not too much arguing, because we respect each other's points of view, but we definitely don't agree on who killed John O'Keefe. But it was really respectful. It was a good debate, and I learned a lot. Grant is a very unique individual and very, very committed to his community. And I'm always happy to highlight anybody on Social Change Warriors that's committed to their community and committed to calling out corruption and getting justice for people. We might not always agree what side of that track the justice falls on, right? But hopefully it always eventually comes out that the light shines on what happened to someone when a case goes cold or when a case is unsolved, like in the case of John O'Keefe, and that it can be proven who actually did unalive John O'Keefe. That is our hope and prayer for his family, for his friends, for everybody in Canton, Massachusetts, Stoughton, Boston, his hometown of, I think it was it called Brainerd? Did I get that right? Obviously, I'm not from Massachusetts, but I have been there many times. I have a great aunt and uncle that lived in Foxborough for many years. So I am somewhat familiar with your landscape there, your geography, but not all the names of all your towns. I think it was Brainerd, though. I think that's where John went to high school. So we have been here now, Friday Night Lies, for almost a full year. We started in January. I wanted to cover the Karen Reed, John O'Keefe case. And I had put out some feelers to see if I could get invited on some of the other live stream shows, but not really many people wanted to pay much attention to me because, well, number one, I'm not from Massachusetts, so I completely understood that. I was a police officer, though, so I thought maybe they'd like to hear it from a patrol standpoint, what that scene, the chaoticness of that scene and what went wrong with that scene. I thought maybe I could offer some intelligence there, but it was not to be. So I decided, well, heck, I'm already live streaming on domestic violence victims, advocating for Sandra Birchmore, Ellen Greenberg, Suzanne Morphew, Suzanne Clark Simpson, several others, Ashley Lachey Elkins, and my own cases that I was able to connect with families here in Florida. So why don't I just start my own talk about John O'Keefe and Karen Reed? And that's how I came up with Friday Night Lies, because I'm a football fan and there was so much lying, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, a lot of lying going on. And there is still a lot of lying going on. And we'll get to that a little bit later tonight, because people just seem to love to lie in the Massachusetts area. Now, I'm sure people lie all over the country, as we all know. And I've had a lot of lies going on in the cases here in Florida. And we know that there's lies going on with Suzanne Morphew. We believe there are, right? We, in our opinion, many of our opinions with the death of Suzanne Morphew out in Colorado, we believe Brian Walshe is lying, many of us. And also Suzanne Clark Simpson in San Antonio, Texas. We do believe that her husband, Brad Simpson, lied through his teeth. Now, these are all our opinions. And I always like to remind everybody, your opinion may not be mine may not be yours. Our opinions at the end of the day are opinions. And until there is full proof and evidence, and or the jury comes to the conclusion that that person is guilty, and then again, they may not be. There are people in jail who did not commit the crime. They were not guilty. So until there's a confession, that's really all that we would need. We need a confession before we can feel, okay, this case is for sure over and done with. There's many times when people go to jail and the families say, nope, my person didn't do it. And there's private investigators that say, nope, we don't believe this person did it. The jury got it wrong. And so then, then we don't know for sure. Many people stay on the side of that person is innocent and they've been wrongfully, arrested, convicted, put in jail, and there they sit. So advocacy is tricky. It's very subjective to the person that is advocating, that decides to climb on board to an advocacy train, as many of you have done for Karen Read. Many of you believed that there is no way she could have hit John O'Keefe with her car after much of the evidence started coming out into the media and after you watched the first trial. There's many of you, and now we know that there's about $100,000 of you, according to the new group that has formed to protect and advocate for the House witnesses, that we'll call the House witnesses, the McCabe's, the Alberts, and Higgins, and some of the children that were there that night that testified, and friends of the children of the Alberts and McCabe's, that there's $100,000 of you that believe that John was hit by a car. And I'm a little stunned by that. Honestly, and I have been all along, but I get it. I understand that you have the right to your opinion. I understand that you feel a certain way because you may be friends. I don't know what I would do if a friend of mine was charged with a crime or was a witness, and then everybody was blaming my friend. I don't know what I would do. Have any of you thought of that? And so I've tried to put myself in the shoes of someone on Twitter X who has me blocked. Mama Llama, who is Carrie Llama, who is a friend. I'm not doxing her name. Everyone knows who she is. She's best friends with Jen McCabe. And I think I would tend to stand with my best friend if there was enough evidence that made me think that the other side, and in the beginning there was circumstantial evidence that he could have been hit by a car and that Karen could have done it because she questioned her own self. So I do feel for everybody that believes that John was hit by a car. They have reasons to feel that way. They are friends, family, colleagues. But after two trials and all the evidence and all of the very bizarre testimony, let's just say it, let's call it that, by these witnesses in the house that night, inconsistencies all over the board. I made a list of 100 things wrong with the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe from a police officer perspective. And we haven't gone through that yet. We started it a little bit with Grant last week, but then Grant and I got down all kinds of trails. We were all in the woods all over the place. So I will get more into my list of my 100 reasons why they absolutely effed up the death investigation of John O'Keefe after the holidays, because we're going to continue to advocate, because I believe, and many of you believe, and 80%, I think it was 85%, when the law tubers like Emily D. Baker and Melanie Little and the lawyer, they were doing the polls during trials 1 and 2. And the amount of people that believed she did not hit him with her car and that he had to have died some other way. And what other way could that be? There's only pretty much two. Well, let's say there's 3 options. And I'll get to that in a minute. the poll was overwhelmingly that she's not guilty. It was like 85 to 86%. So I am a little stunned that there's still this percentage of people that have now contributed over $100,000 to this new campaign to raise funds for the House defendants, McCabe's, Alberts, Higgins, to defend themselves in the civil trial that will be coming up probably after I die. I mean, I'm just kidding, but these civil trials can go forever. And Emily D. Baker said today she doesn't think she's going to see a civil trial until probably 2026 or maybe even 27. So hopefully I'll still be alive then, but it doesn't, some days it doesn't feel like we're going to ever even see justice for Sandra Birchmore, much less justice for John O'Keefe or the civil trial. So much hold up. But let me get to those three ways. There's only three things that could have happened to John O'Keefe. He was hit by Karen's car, and the science is completely wrong, which I don't agree with at all. He fell on his own after Karen pulled away because she can't remember for sure if she saw him go into the house or not. And he hit his head, and he passed away right out front, and then panic ensued by the people in the house, or there was some type of a fight, which we really saw brewing at the waterfall. If you've watched Microdots, who is amazingly talented, Microdots has video after video after video on this case, and he's very good at telling the story from the perspective of Brian Albert and Brian Higgins and Chris Albert were in a circle at the very end of the night at the waterfall. John was by the bar about to pay his tab. Everybody had left except for Karen Reed and Jen McCabe, and I believe Kolokisos, I forgot her first name. I think those three ladies were still talking by the bar. One of the band members had left or was leaving while this disruption was going on, while Brian Higgins was pointing at John, acting like he wanted to, he's like, come on, man, let's go. You can just hear it. It's the bro stuff. It's the stuff I heard as a police officer right before bar fights broke out, or I would interview witnesses at the bar after the bar fight broke out, and I had to arrest people and interview the witnesses, and they would say, oh yeah, they were manning each other, and they were, chest bumping each other, and posturing is always dangerous. If a man ever postures you, ladies, you need to get the heck out of there, because it's a sign that they are about to lose it. And any man that gets up in your face and chest bumps you and postures you up against a wall or up against a door or just in the middle of whatever, a dance floor, unless it's a dance move, it's not good. So that's what was going on at the waterfall at the end of the night. There was posturing going on. There was male testosterone flowing all over the place. And there were hand gestures going on. And John was doing a little dance, like a boxer's dance. He's being kind of funny, but you could just feel it coming from him, that he's like, oh yeah, you think you can beat me up? Bring it. So I do believe that some type of a fight ensued quickly, and John fell backwards somehow, whether he was knocked over by the dog or knocked over by a punch. And I think he might have gotten in a punch himself and hit his head. And that's the bad, awful head injury that the medical examiners declared was a life-threatening, life-ending, could have been a life-ending injury. Now, had he received medical care immediately, we'll never know, because I believe panic ensued, and then the cover-up ensued. And that's my opinion. And I just knocked my elbow right off my own table. That's my opinion. I'm not saying for sure that any of these people did any of these things. This is what the evidence presents to me and has presented to many others. This is a hypothetical, my opinion, theory of what happened to John O'Keefe that night. So that is what we have been up to on Friday Night Lies since last January. And we started out covering trial 1 and going over all the testimony, because I wanted to go over it with you all. You guys are smart. Those of you that come with me on Friday Night Lies, you love to follow true crime. You love to figure out who done it and who doesn't. I mean, I am now just starting to read a book I've never read. It's called The Street Lawyer, John Grisham. I don't know how I missed this one. And I think my mom gave this one to me. I'm trying to remember. I forgot now. Forgot who gave this to me. I didn't get it from the library. There's no library thing overdue. So I didn't get it from the library. I used to go to the library all the time, even up until about 2-3 years ago, because I love libraries. They are just beautiful buildings most of the time. I love the smell of libraries, the quietness, the peacefulness of it. I love just going to look for a book and then just sitting in the library and reading and then checking it out like you did when you were a kid and you have a library card. And then I got addicted to my iPad, and that's thanks to my mom and my sister. They actually got me into doing not the Kindle. I've never done the Kindle, but I do the Libby. Libby is the app you can put on your phone or your iPad or your tablet or wherever it is you have, and you can read a book. So I got kind of stuck on that because it's not always easy to have a book with you, and they're cumbersome at times and bigger than even this. But I got hooked on Libby. So now I just go on Libby. I look for the books I want to read, always mostly true crime, but sometimes I'll read some romance novels when I'm in the mood for something low-key, but I mostly read true crime. And that's what got me interested many, many years ago. And as I've told you many times, my mother's profession as a Department of Justice for Wisconsin paralegal investigator, and hearing about all of her cases after they were closed and knowing that she worked, for the Justice Department. And I was so proud of her amazing career. But I was just always interested in law enforcement, always interested in solving something, even way back to a child as with Nancy Drew. And I'm sure many of you ladies were into Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys. Even some of you guys might have been into the Hardy Boys. So it's been kind of a lifelong passion of mine. So when I first, heard about the death of John O'Keefe, I was kind of like, okay, well, this doesn't sound right. Something just never made sense to me when I read what happened to him, and how they immediately arrested his girlfriend and immediately, wrote it up as a drunk driving accident, that she hit him and left the scene. And I'm like, not a lot of people leave scenes. First of all, it is rare. Most people that hit someone or hit another car stop. It's just your common sense, your ethics comes out. And I'm like, wait, this is a college professor, an accountant of sorts. Like, I think she's a CPA, or I know she's got a finance background, or a background in some type of money investments, and a college professor. I'm like, there's no way she would have left. I just don't buy it. And so when I started figuring it all out and learning more and more about it, and then the grand jury hearing, I'm like, whoa, none of this makes sense. And I've literally been hooked ever since. And I've hooked a few of my friends into it. Kathy Coppins is one of them who joins us here every Friday Night Lives, pretty much. And here she is. Hi, Kathy. Hello, everyone. Yes, I hooked you into this, and I'm glad I did, because I had somebody to talk to before I started live streaming and vent to, other than just Twitter and Facebook. And now since then, with Friday Night Lives going on, and we've been reviewing all of the testimony of all of the witnesses and drilling down every Friday night. There were very few nights we took off. We even live streamed on my birthday last February 14th. And that was Brian Albert and Nicole Albert's testimony. And you've all been great with your comments and your suggestions and your theories and ideas. I've really enjoyed 2025 with Friday Night Lies, and I hope I can keep it going into 2026. There'll be other cases that I will want to talk about on Friday nights, not just Massachusetts cases like we were doing, because there just are. There's other people that need us to advocate for them and that need us to stand up for them. And we'll have the right now, the Brian Walshe case, which is the death of Anna Walshe. I do believe that he unalived his wife. That is my opinion. Others do not. Others think that she had some kind of catastrophic health event and that he panicked. It's two sides. It's two theories. My domestic violence side tells me no, but I don't believe it was premeditated. I don't think, based on what I saw with the evidence, and we'll get into that in a little while when we're going to bring our special guest up here any second. So anyway, welcome back. Welcome to Friday Night Lies. All of you that have been with me, know me and know that I'm a former police officer from Wisconsin and a social worker with a background in domestic violence, homicide, and domestic violence survivors. And this is my retirement passion. I do not get paid to do this. I do take donations if you want to, and it's only to help pay for StreamYard, YouTube, anything I have to do, get copies of police reports. Usually the families will pay for those, but I don't want to be paid. This is my give back to society and to my communities, where I meet these families and help them to find some type of closure if we can. And I'll talk a little bit about the families that I'm currently working with right now, advocating for, towards when we take our break, when we come back from our break. I just want to reintroduce you to the families that I've been advocating for the past year and a half, and are continuing to do so. So we will keep going with Friday Night Lies. as long as you want to, as long as I have an audience and you all want to be here on Friday nights and talk about whatever injustice or whoever needs us to advocate for them during their trial, or just so that we are supportive of the families, or whatever, any other cases that we come up against that haven't gone to trial yet that we are advocating for, we can discuss and break down on Friday Night Live. So we are social change warriors, and I am a justice seeker and a victim advocate and a volunteer. So welcome everyone, and thank you for coming. Basically what I usually tell the families, and I tell them that I know I cannot bring back your family member, but I can try to help you get answers to these unanswered questions that are burning in your brain every day, because your family's case was either solved in such a way that you're not happy about it, which is a situation with my newest case out of Wisconsin, Mallory Munzenberger and her dear sweet little boy, Major Harris. They were unalived by the hands of someone else, and the family is not satisfied with who the police believed took their lives. So I am working with them to go over, it's 500 pages of police reports. We've been doing that during the week, and we've had a few live streams with Mary Jo, Mallory's mother. I'll show you her picture here when I go over our victims a little bit later on in the hour. And I read all the police reports that I can get my hands on, autopsy reports, anything I can look at, evidence. And obviously, if there was a trial, I'll go over the trial, but most of these cases are unsolved, or in this case, the person unalived themselves, so there was no trial. So the family never got to hear the evidence. They never got to know what the police really found out, because the police had been very close-lipped about it. So even though the case is closed and he unalived himself. So we are going to be having a meeting with the Milwaukee detective who was on the case. The lead detective is no longer with MPD, but we are having a meeting. Now, that was supposed to take place yesterday, and we were going to live stream last night, but he had to cancel. We sent him way too many questions, and he's actually really trying hard to get the answers. I completely appreciate that, and I have so much respect for Milwaukee Police Department. I worked with them on a few things in my career, and I've never had a bad experience with them, but I'm sure there are people that have, because unfortunately there are bad eggs in every dozen, or of 12 or 13, right? So we know that based on the Karen Reed and other trials that we've been following. So hopefully, if I can get more answers to the questions, even if the case is going to stay the way it's going to stay and it won't be reopened, that maybe then they can have some form of peace that we did everything we could do to answer every question that they have. And that's my main goal when I work with families. If by chance we can get their case reopened, or if by chance, a miracle, we actually find evidence that the police didn't find, or something new comes up and someone does get arrested, then I stay with the families through the trial and whatever comes after that. So that's where we are with Social Change Warriors. Thankful to all of you that follow and advocate for those that I am advocating for. I appreciate you all so much for being part of our team. So let's bring our special guest up tonight. Let me get her photo up here that she sent to me today. So we are going to be meeting with Miss Ida Lee, and that is not her real name. It's to protect her. And she has been a strong advocate for Sandra Birchmore and has a lot of interesting things to share with us, because she is a resident of the state of Massachusetts. She knows a lot of the people that are involved in the Karen Reed, John O'Keefe case, as well as Sandra Birchmore. She's a true advocate, loves her community, and I'm really happy to finally get to meet her. We have spent much time together on social media, sharing each other's posts and talking and backing each other up, but I actually get to see her in person, and I'm pretty damn excited about that. So let's welcome to our Social Change Warriors team and Justice Seekers team, Ida Lee from Massachusetts. Hi, Ida. Oh, I think you're muted. Click your unmute button. You look beautiful. I love your Christmas dress. Well, we can see you, but we can't hear you yet. You look so Christmassy. Let me see if I can unmute you. Hang on a second. I'm going to see if there's a way I can unmute you. Well, it says you're not muted on my end. Sometimes if you go out and come back in, it might be that she might have been, were you hooked up to a headset at some point? It might be running through a headset, possibly. We'll give her a second to get her voice on so we can hear her. We can see her, but we just can't hear her yet. It sometimes is an issue with if they've been connected to a headset, as you guys know. Sometimes when you're connected to a headset and then you unconnect, the computer doesn't catch up, and then nobody can hear you, and that's frustrating. So let's hope that she gets her volume on so we can see her. So let me say hi to all of you. I already said hi to Kathy. Welcome. Let's see. And Tracy's with us. Great to see you, Tracy. I know a few of you are coming late. You told me because you are at Christmas parties, which is completely understandable. And hi to all of you that don't want to talk in our friend zone. That's okay too. You are welcome anytime. There we go.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Hi, Idalee.
Hi, how's it going?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. I'm so proud of you. So proud of your advocacy and your boots on the ground and all the signs you've held. And tell everybody a little bit about you, where you're from and how you got involved in advocacy.
Sure. I am originally from South Boston. I graduated from Canton High with a lot of people that we've mentioned and that have been discussed. I got into advocacy around a lot of this stuff after the release of the Stoughton Internal Affairs report surrounding Sandra Birchmore. I myself was involved with the husband of Sandra Birchmore's resource officer when I was younger. And I read the report and I was incensed and fearful. And so I took it upon myself to become a thorn in the district attorney's side. And I did successfully. And I like to make a glitter poster board for a good cause. So
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Not everybody, it's scary to do what you've done. And a lot of people want to do it, but they stop themselves because they're like, whoa, wait a minute. What if the blowback comes down on my family or my adjacent family or my husband's family or wife's family or whatever the case may be? And there's a lot of reasons why people are terrified to push up against anybody in the government.
And that's absolutely valid. And that was an experience I also lived. So, yeah,
I know
that is a completely valid concern.
Yes, it is. And there's a lot you shared with me that we cannot share live, maybe someday, because we don't want you to be in any danger. But sure. I do appreciate you trusting me with what you have shared, and I have never shared it with anyone.
Yes.
But I do hope someday that you can tell your story because it deserves to be told. So you just keep doing the good fight. And I know everybody that supports Sandra Birchmore, Mizzy and Sandra's cousin Barbara and all of their Sandra's warriors that they have on their side over on Mizzy's channel. I know you've done standouts with them and you've probably met most of them, right?
Yeah, they're wonderful. They've been great.
And what was it like in the beginning when Sandra, when nobody was talking about Sandra Birchmore? I only found out about Sandra Birchmore because I started following the John O'Keefe homicide. And then I found out about it because I was digging around and other things going on in your state. And then a few times, I know Aiden mentioned it way back in the beginning, and then his people that's kind of, I call them, they sprung off of his show. So Will the Glare, Mike had his own show, The Young Jerks. He was doing his own thing before he got involved with Karen Reed. But Will the Glare basically sprung off of Aiden. LTL Media definitely sprung off of, they became friends with Aiden. They sprung off of him and started their own channels, their own true crime. But they were mostly all just, it was like having, I call it the Notre Dame Broadcasting Network. So for broadcasting station. So for all of you Notre Dame fans, when I was a kid, my dad and I watched a lot of college football, and we always thought it was just ridiculous that Notre Dame got to have all their games on NBC. And how is that even possible? And why is that fair? And so we had all these discussions about that, and it's still going on. So I jokingly call it the Notre Dame Broadcasting Station. Well, in effect, Will the Glare, LTL Media, and Mazda Media, those three, and then of course Aiden, all four of those channels were all Karen Reed all day long, every day, every live stream. Every blue moon, you might hear Sanders Birchmore's name being mentioned, but it wasn't much. And I remember being in those chats early on before I decided to start live streaming, and I would constantly be hashtagging Justice for Ellen Greenberg because she's right there in Pennsylvania. She's not far from you all, and Justice for Sandra Birchmore. And I was always wondering, why am I the only one doing this? And there were others, I wasn't the only one. I'm exaggerating, but there weren't many. I mean, I was really one of the few. A few of us were hashtagging Justice for Sandra Birchmore. Nobody was hashtagging Justice for Ellen Greenberg. I was definitely the only one doing that because that, by God, is in Pennsylvania. That's so far away. But we all have to be more, observant of travesties that are going on in other states, especially if they're near us. So when this all started, like I was just saying, that was my little lead up to your question. How did it feel for all of you not getting any attention at all for a young girl who you all knew in your heart of hearts did not unalive herself? Now, this was prior to Matthew Farwell getting unalived. You guys started doing standouts way before that.
Way before that. Oh, sure. It was scary. I will give a shout out to local media, the Canton Citizen newspaper, wonderful local newspaper. They were kind enough to come down and cover my first little temper tantrum outside of the district attorney's office.
What were you doing that day?
And
Tell us a little bit about it before you go on too far. Just tell us, what was your temper tantrum and what were you doing there? Who was with you?
Just a group of local women. Ashley Bell showed up, Kathy McCormick, just a lot of local women, moms, other
I love that.
victims. Yeah, it was great. And after speaking to a few other women that were in the same position as me and had the same, my grew. I was pregnant at the same time as Matthew's wife, who I know from high school. So that really sat deeply with me.
And what
And
pregnancy was that for
gave
them?
me a
Was
lot
it?
of fear, gave me fear for their wives who are both Canton women.
Yes.
And it gave me even more concern the way the state police presented themselves. So I started event and just started serial posting it in all the local Facebook groups that I was going to do a stand. The local guy, Dave Colnane, he was covering it there. And we spoke to the state police a little bit that day. And I was concerned. So I drew up a records request that was maybe a little pointed, probably rubbed a few people the wrong way. And I dropped that off, had a chat with Lieutenant Tully and yeah, and then everything since. And the district attorney hasn't changed his mind or his course thus far still. So, but
Well,
it
that's
was
one
it
of the
was
things.
scary. It's still scary. But
I'm sure.
everybody that has shown up in droves, Missy, Sandra's family has been great. The women in the community of Canton, yeah, they have been there to help lift my voice and add their own voices to it. So that's been really helpful in terms of making me feel confident and assured
Right.
me that I was doing the right thing for my kid, for everybody's kids in the community.
That's
So
great. That's wonderful. Now, a lot of my viewers know quite a bit about Sandra Birchmore because of many of them follow the John O'Keefe Karen Reed case, and we've also live streamed with Mizzy a couple times, and I've done my own episodes on Sandra and the whole backstory. But you know a lot more than I've ever
yeah.
found out. And my curiosity is when they determined and went early on, right early on, they didn't even investigate anyone. They early on said, that's it, she
Right.
unalived herself, case closed. What was it that started the charge? Was it her family and Barbara and then Mizzy who said, no, we don't believe that this woman did that? I know Mizzy never knew Sandra, so I know she got involved at some point with probably you and Barbara would be my guess if you were the initial standout.
So the initial standout, no, it was a lot of local people, and I actually linked up with them later. Um, but what kind of initially got it going was the fact that nobody would seem to want to do anything about it, and the investigators that were supposed to be investigating were his high school buddies. Which was wildly concerning to me because I know them all personally. I know all of these intimate
Absolutely.
connections.
Yes, absolutely.
And
That would be wildly concerning.
yeah. And I reached out to a few of the other people that are connected who shared my concerns, who deeply
Right.
shared my concerns. People that had worked in the school when she was a student, and they also shared my same concerns. Although the state police did not necessarily share those concerns.
So when did the what was it that kind of turned the page? Was it when the family hired the independent medical examiner and his report
Yeah.
basically said this was not an unaliving of herself, this was a homicide? Good evening, Diane. Welcome. Good to
Yes.
have you. Welcome aboard.
Hi, Diane.
Welcome aboard our justice.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so
Um,
no worries. So the family
Yeah,
hired
so
it,
I think it was November of 2022 is when they kind of were like, all right, we're going to pursue this civilly if the DA isn't going to do anything.
right?
And that's roughly when everybody kind of started to come unglued that was supposed to that wasn't doing their job.
Right.
I I started a campaign for school committee and was a little forceful, maybe telling a lot of these cops that I would advocate for their free therapy, which I don't think they loved. But that's all right.
I love I
So
love your bluntness on Twitter X and Facebook. I love how blunt you are with these people. I love how you don't
yeah,
back down when people come after you. When I first started following him, I'm like, I got to meet her. I have to meet her. That's why I sent you that direct message. I'm like, I need to meet this person. This is a true social change warrior. This is a justice advocate. I need to know her.
yeah. Oh, thanks. It's all the Catholic schooling. The nuns taught me to be tough and do what's right. That's so.
My friend Kathy
Yeah,
went
I
through
mean, there
Catholic
wasn't
school.
there wasn't really another option for me. I don't
Mhm.
think, because of some of the my background history with it. I was kind of already being harassed, frankly. My family was. There wasn't really, for my own children, I couldn't back down. But at that point, it wasn't necessarily about the investigation or solving anything.
Right.
What I was campaigning on was more so infrastructure solutions, ensuring
Mhm.
that police officers, teachers, first responders, the people that are onboarding all of our trauma for us, are properly supported by taxpayers to have good mental health. I started
Right.
asking about things like police contracts so I could understand where the failures were happening that were basically allowing this to go uninvestigated, and for all of these odd men to continue to harass the women of the community.
And like you
Um,
said, the friends of the Farwell brothers and Robert Devine should not be investigating them. That should have the checks and balances there
no,
doesn't equal out.
right, absolutely not. Yeah, that was actually the biggest concerning part for me, was that the The woman that got the first call after Sandra passed away is the wife of Yuri's best friend. And if this is the unit that is tasked with investigating, it's all these Stoughton guys, high school buddies that we've all drank in basements together, and we all are in the same connected social circles. And it could not have been an unbiased investigation from my vantage point. So that was deeply concerning to me, and I was basically advocating to prevent this in the future and to ensure that these things were done in a way, in an objective way that
Absolutely.
would definitely steer more toward justice and safety for children in schools.
Exactly. Well, good for you. I mean, you really broaden the campaign out further than just Sandra Birchmore, because like you said, this type of thing could happen again, and it probably will, sadly, in the future. And you're trying to correct the wrongs that have been going on, systemically for all these years.
Yeah.
Now, the thing, when I first learned about Sandra, I was just stunned. I was so stunned. I'm like, how in the world could she have been groomed by police officers for that many years and no one in a small department like Stoughton figure it out? How could no one have known? And it makes me think that someone had to have known, and they just weren't going to flip on a fellow brother in blue.
Yeah, I think that is a lot of it is part of it is the brother in blue, but I think some of it to some extent is a bit of self-preservation, whether it's a supervisor that didn't follow up on like a parent complaint. In this scenario, though, Rob Devine was supervising the whole kit and caboodle, the
Exactly.
whole dumpster
That
fire,
Right,
frankly.
it's not just about one officer gone rogue. You're talking about
No,
4 for sure that we know of, and possibly more in other departments. We don't know how
sure.
far out the octopus's, tentacles go with this, because Massachusetts refuses to look into this case. They still believe that Sandra unalived herself. They refuse, and thank God that the feds got involved, or this
Thank
would
God.
still be a nothing. She would still, her death would still be ignored, and you would all
I
just be out
feel
there
like a lot
protesting.
of other women would be harmed, would have
Yeah.
been harmed if the feds had not gotten involved.
Oh my
So
gosh, yes, because
I was relieved beyond like I was elated the day he was arrested. It gave me a
oh, me too.
profound sense of relief
Oh yeah.
because
Well,
the very
you
personal close
especially,
connections.
and you started so early on, Mizzy and Barbara and those others ladies that were with you. Diane, welcome.
Mhm.
Diane says, I stand out weekly on Fridays 11 to 1 at CPD. I'll definitely be there on February 1st for Sandra, weather permitting, from the Cape. Oh, that's
Oh,
wonderful.
great.
And
We'll meet you
I'm
there.
really hoping to come and visit you all one of these days. I just have to figure out when I can do it. My great aunt is probably, God, I forgot how old she is now, but she's still in the area, the Foxborough area. And
That's
I
good.
saw her a few years ago in Wisconsin, but I would love to see her. And I don't know that she's traveling anymore. She's my grandpa's sister. So I haven't gotten to see her a lot of times in my life because I was always in Wisconsin and she was always living out there in Foxborough. But I've said to my mom and sister, I really want to make a trip there. And now I have more of a reason because I've met so many of you online, and I would love to meet you all in person and do a standout, be there for one of your standouts. So I'm definitely trying to plan it. I just have to figure out. I'm going back to Wisconsin for Christmas next week, but at some point in the spring, I would really like to be up there
Yeah.
with you all for a standout. That would mean the world to me after advocating for Sandra as long as I have, and knowing how long you've all been doing it. It would just be a real honor to meet you all in person, and to do a live stream from there would be very meaningful to me after spending all this time volunteering all through this long of a
Oh, we
time.
would love that. We
I
would
would love
love
it.
that. The more the merrier.
Yes, absolutely.
We love
Um,
hordes of women. I think it terrifies the district attorney.
I'd like to think so. I just want to know in what universe they are okay with their decision not to press their own charges after all the evidence that the feds were able to uncover. It's mind-boggling to me.
Well, I think that a lot of the people in the state police are complicit in part of it. So there's that that part of it.
Yes,
Again, it's the same social circle. Can his buddies investigate? Both of the Farwell's wives are Canton High School graduates. So it's all very incestuous. Um, so I think it was self-preservation why they didn't do that, whether it's personal or the pension or whatever.
right,
Um, they had motive to just, even the internal affairs report, like God bless Donna McNamara for doing her due diligence in that, but you can see the way they kind of portray her as somebody without support,
right.
which, as you know, her family has like come to the scene. It was disingenuous, and it was, yeah, to paint her as like a cop obsessed, tragic case, and they wanted it to be done with. So I think it was a lot of personal preservation, because what could the
Yeah,
district attorney do? Say, well, his hockey buddies didn't want to investigate him. I mean, and now I
exactly.
think
And that's
it's
exactly
they're
what
kind of
happened.
at the point where it's like, yeah, they're pretty deep into it. So
Yeah. Yeah, that there once you get so deep and then there's no coming out. And Diane said it perfectly here.
right.
First, I'll say she said, I've attended several of Sandra's standouts, including Stoughton and at Morrissey's office. Wonderful, Diane. Thank you so much for being boots on the
All
ground with
right.
everybody. And you said it perfectly.
Thank
They're
you.
doubling down. They're going to double down because if they don't, then there's jail time waiting for them. And they know that.
Oh
So
yeah.
they believe that they're still so insulated, or there's no proof that they did anything nefarious. So they're going to double down because telling the truth would mean losing their law enforcement certifications and possibly going to jail. So yeah, that's
Certainly.
right, Diane.
But the
And
truth
you're right.
is out there, though, that at this
Yeah,
point, the truth is out there. And like I said, like I've experienced backlash from these police officers for speaking my truth, for advocating for the truth surrounding Sandra. But the
I'm sure
funny
you
thing
have.
is, the truth persists. And
Yes.
uh, and if they're worried about jail time, then not further perpetuating more crime to cover Matthew Farwell's original crime might be the way to pivot in this situation. I'm not law enforcement. I am scientifically trained, not, I don't know how investigations work, but I would think, pivot away from targeting women would be the
Well,
way.
investigations work when you actually investigate something. That's how they work.
You're right.
And
You're right.
that wasn't done because Matthew Farwell had a crew of people to support him, and they immediately it's very scary to me how similar Ellen Greenberg, what happened to her with the massive cover up, in my opinion, in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Sandra, because the fiance of Ellen Greenberg had connections to the government. His uncle was a judge and knew a lot of people in the DA's office and in the police department. And they quickly ruled her death and unaliving of herself, even though there were 20 stab wounds. Later, after there was another review of her autopsy, 23 is what the most recent medical examiner has now said, but will still not turn over back to a homicide. And the original autopsy was a homicide. And then after pressure was put on him, which he admitted and wrote a letter to the judge during the civil proceedings with the family, that he was wrong and that he had been pressured to do that and change it to an unaliving. So there is so much wrong with the Ellen Greenberg case, and it's still sitting in limbo. Her family still has no real closure other than that they did get that settlement from the city. Finally, the city basically admitted wrongdoing by settling, and that first medical examiner came forward and admitted that his original stance was the correct stance, that it was a homicide. And in order to fake out an unaliving, blame Sandra, blame Ellen for their own deaths, that's premeditation. You're not going to be able to do that on the fly, right? So we know that Sandra's unaliving was premeditated. I'm absolutely convinced that Ellen Greenberg's was premeditated, and neither one of these ladies have justice yet. Now, thankfully, we do have one arrest in this case, that is Matthew Farwell, who has yet to be brought before a judge, and he's been arrested since last August.
Yeah, he's hiding. He doesn't want to look her family in the eye. Yeah,
I think it's way more than that.
I pray that they kind of approach it in a more holistic way, kind of like pin it on the girl, and they attempted to do that. And I think at this point they're trying to pin it on Farwell, which is valid, but obviously all of the other bad actors in this should be held accountable because they present a risk to the community. Like, these are police officers. When I showed up to the district attorney's office and spoke with a state trooper there, he would, Brian Tully's not from Canton, he's not from Stoughton. I expected objective reason, and victims need to be able to go and be able to safely report these things. And right now, the way the infrastructure is set up and the way these conflicts of interest are being dealt with, that's not so feasible, which
and can you imagine the families of any of these other young girls, if these young girls even did tell their families what happened to them? And sometimes they don't, because they're terrified. And I'm sure that these 4 individuals, now I can't say anything about Joshua Heel. I don't understand his involvement. You may know more about him, but as far as William and Robert and Matthew go, there's no question, based on the evidence, that they were grooming Sandra from a very young age, and there is no way she was their only victim. There's just no way. Common sense dictates that there was more than one. And the fear that they probably put into these other young girls absolutely sickens me, makes me absolutely ill. And it just makes me turn 3 shades of green to think of what they did to shut these poor girls up and not allow them to scare them so badly that they might not have even told their parents, that they could be walking around with it and even their parents don't know. Then if they did tell their parents, if some of them did tell their parents, the parents are seeing all of this go on, this constant corruption that is very evident in your communities, in these 2 communities. And I don't know about any of the other ones, but people aren't dumb. People in communities are smart, and they know when things are nefarious, but they have no proof. And like you said, they're afraid to say anything. They're afraid to go stand out or protest because they don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want their family doxxed. They don't want to lose friends. They're afraid. They're afraid, and they have every right to be afraid. These are men in positions of power that have other people in power that are covering for them, or they wouldn't have been able to get away with it all this time.
Oh, absolutely. Because of the unique position of power that law enforcement holds, they're able to, if somebody comes forward, they're able to attack that victim. They are able to, start pretextual investigations against those that are dissenting of their behavior, to cover their tracks and scare them into silence. Like you said, their family, their friends, and unfortunately, a lot of they're very socially connected to the town, both towns, and
right.
Yeah, it's a very effective little machine they had going before it got broken up. I mean,
Yeah,
Rob Devine did something
could have gone on
horrific to
forever.
his mistress that should have been the nail in his coffin. Raiding her house with his coworkers. He ended up getting demoted for it and didn't learn his lesson. Came back and started stirring up more trouble at work.
Well,
Using a
because he
minor
kept getting
child.
away with it. When a person who has criminal tendencies, whether they be a narcissistic criminal or just someone with criminal tendencies and an ego, as big as Texas, keeps getting away with committing minor crimes, white collar crimes. That was a case that I learned about in Indiana from Ed Byers. He came on the show with us last year and told us about this white collar crime going on in Indiana that had been going on for 12 to 14 years, millions and millions of dollars being stolen right out from underneath the Clark County residents' noses for his own nefarious activities, and his wife and his paid for his daughter's college education, on, and shortcut the county in many, many important ways, including EMS and fire. And he got away with it because there were politicians above and below him, because they were all getting a cut, and they were so cocky and arrogant and got away with it for so long. Then they don't think they'll ever get caught, and that's exactly what happened with these men. And I think Joshua Heel came in on it a little bit later because I believe, if this is correct, tell me, Sandra was already 18 by the time he was with her.
Oh, I don't know when he started romantically linking up, or that's
Mhm.
putting it kindly. I'm not
Oh
sure
yeah, let's
the
not even
exact
go there.
age,
Let's
but
not use that word.
he
Let's not
went
use
and
the
got
R
himself
word.
another. Yeah, he
Yeah,
went and
there's
got
no.
himself another resource officer position where he was later let go. So I think that speaks for itself.
Now, he has
Um,
been
um,
decertified, correct? Do we know? Is Joshua Heel
I think he voluntarily gave up his certification, as did
as did William,
Billy Farwell.
Billy Farwell, yes. But
And
Robert Devine is
Rob is just living his best illusions, and he is committed to the bit. So, and if you
yeah,
watched any of that, that was a tough
unbelievable.
watch. Watching his post commission hearings,
I did.
just watching him repeatedly victim shame and blame, which was
Yes.
wild, which
It was maddening.
horrifying,
He's so
frankly.
delusional. He is so evil. I don't know if he's a combination of evil and delusional, in my opinion, or a little bit of both. But he is an evil, evil human, and I just can't even believe that he's still out there, free as a bird, living, like you said, living free. It sickens me. But William Farwell is living free. I
Yeah,
mean, he amscrayed to New Mexico with his wife and
he sure
family,
did.
got the heck out of Dodge. Either it was right before or right after Matthew was arrested. Now, who does that, right? Who just leaves their
A
brother?
guilty person.
Right. You knew in your head, William, in my opinion, that you knew everything that happened. You covered for him. You were part of it. You were with him. You did your own nefarious acts in the grooming and complete destruction of Sanders' life. And then you're just going to get out of Dodge. And while he's been
Get
out
out
of
of
Dodge,
Dodge.
right. And while he's been out of Dodge, he hasn't been behaving because I don't know who, I wish I could remember who put the police report up, but one of you wonderful justice seekers
Maybe
who
me.
was it Amy? Was it you?
I said it might have been me. I definitely shared it. Yeah, his
I know.
wife is a
I think
Canton
I got it
woman, so
from
I might
you.
have
Yeah.
posted it.
I think I got it from you, but I
Yeah.
didn't know who you got it from or if you found it. But somebody did the FOIA request, got the police report that he had been arrested in his hometown where he lives in the state of New Mexico for domestic violence, and that he and his wife had gotten into an altercation, and that he had gone berserko and had broken things and thrown things around the house and scared the living daylights out of her. Now, she's been living with this psycho,
Yeah,
my opinion, for a long time. So she's gotten used
absolutely.
to her own level of domestic violence in their home, and I am just, it sickens me that she's
Absolutely.
still in that home with him. And
It
where
does.
is help for her? Like, I know it's impossible at times. I'm not blaming her
Right.
family or her friends, because it's almost impossible at times to get a woman to leave. And there's
Yep.
no
Well,
psychological really great explanation for that, other than therapists that are trained to work with domestic violence victims. They get the perpetrator gets them so down, and they're so controlled that they literally can't
yes.
imagine life without this person, and especially if there's children involved, because usually the husband or the fiance or the boyfriend will threaten, and I'm going to take the kids from you. I'll be
Oh,
able to prove that
absolutely.
you're unfit. You don't have a job. I have all the money. You won't be able to have anywhere to live. You'll be homeless. These are all the things, on
Exactly.
and on and on, that a person
I,
like
I
William
think that's
Farwell
why he took her to New Mexico. He
to
kind of was
separate her.
able to effectively isolate Angela and his children,
Right.
and control her, control them, control the narrative, buy himself a little bit more dad privilege.
Exactly.
And you would think he would have kept it together, but he did not. And yeah, I'm kind of remiss that they haven't scooped him up yet and that he's able to still harm a woman at Canton. It actually deeply bothers me. But you had said something about, kind of they're perpetuating crimes and it's kind of accepted, and because they have all these connections. I just want to point out that this isn't a white collar crime per se. This is not they're napping on the job
Oh, no, no.
or
I
they're
know that.
taking, they're literally, they picked up a middle school girl.
Yes.
Like this is what incensed me, and the fact that I have to send my children to these schools and my friends' kids go to these schools.
Yes. And I wasn't
That we
comparing
were
them at
there.
all.
No, I
That
know.
was
I know.
that was a bad comparison. I was just mentioning
No,
how
it
many
wasn't. It
other
wasn't. I just
crimes
wanted
are
to
going
point
on in
out that,
police. Yes, thank you. Just let's
yeah, these
clarify
are
that
these are beyond
these
time
men,
card theft,
yes, these men are
like
not
this these
just
are
right.
these are sins more than white collar crimes.
Well,
And
but they're
that
crimes against children if they were grooming
that's
her at
exactly
the
right.
age of 13. So it's crimes against
Right.
children. And if any of them did have relations with her prior to her being of age, even then it would have been, in my book, a crime, unethical.
Right.
Even if in that particular state, they would say that. I don't know what the age of consent is in Massachusetts. Do you know?
So
Is it
I think it
17 or
is, I think you can consent at 16, but, I know there's a lot of states that have laws on the books where you cannot consent to sex with a non-duty police officer because the
right?
power dynamic that exists.
Exactly.
Consent is not able to be given, freely.
Right.
So
That's
hopefully
right. There's a whole
Massachusetts will
different
adopt
level of,
something similar.
yeah, there's all
Yeah,
different
because a
level of
lot of
law.
the excuses, Josh Heel, Rob Devine, they're like, well, she was an adult and, there was some kind of working relationship and they were able to, that not able to, but that's the excuse, oh, she was an adult and this. Well, do you just because the power dynamics that exist, the consent is
Right.
not freely given. And they have
Absolutely.
like you said, from middle school, they had molded and used this girl, and I'm not sure she could have at any point freely given consent to any of what they had put her through.
No, because,
So
and I wasn't trying to say she could. I was just meaning
no,
what could they charge her? What could they charge these men with? What are their charge? Like, if he had an unalived Sandra, what are the charges that they could even charge these men with? That's the scary part, is if they can't prove that there was relations prior to the age of consent in Massachusetts. And if you don't have that law regarding police officers, then what would there have been? What if he had an
the white
unalived her?
collar stuff that you're talking about, like Rob
Exactly. That's why
Devine
I
said,
brought it
met
up,
her on the
because
clock. So, all
right,
right, we'll charge him
right,
with time card
right.
theft or
And that's the only
whatnot,
reason I
which,
brought that up, because sometimes that's all you're left with, is if you can't get them on on felonies, misdemeanor crimes of sex, and you can't get them
Mhm.
on that, you don't have evidence for it, or the age screws you up, then all you're left with is, like you said, a misdemeanor of more of what would be a white collar crime, which, or just a crime, or just a even just what is the word I'm looking for? Administrative code violation
Right.
in a
Right.
specific city, or a city ordinance violation, or a code in their rules of being an authority, being a member of the Canton Police Department or the Stoughton Police Department. And that, that's maddening and frustrating, because we all
Yes.
know that what went on with Sandra, the grooming of Sandra Birchmore, which we know now happened starting right when she was 13. And we don't know for sure, but I have my suspicions that the Matthew Farwell and William Farwell brothers were groomed by Robert Devine.
Yeah, I mean, that dynamic definitely existed, and human behavior is learned.
Right,
And
right,
they saw, if you've read the Spotlight, the Boston Globe piece, Ashley Bell does talk a bit about the dynamic, and
right,
that they basically witnessed him grooming young girls. And that
right,
is a green light for them. They look up to this man as a role model, a mentor, and he's blazing the path that they're following. So
right.
yeah, definitely he's definitely the kingpin of the situation for sure.
And
Uh,
it's just stunning that that he was, if the FBI hadn't gotten involved in the Sandra Birchmore case, she would still be considered as unaliving herself, and they would have
yeah.
literally no evidence, it appears, against any of these people.
Oh, I mean, oh God.
It's
Yeah,
just it's
or they
funny.
would have
It's
buried all the evidence, or say
right,
they were
right.
hacked. That tends
Exactly.
to be their favorite. Um,
It's just
yeah, and thank God
it's
they did.
horrific. Yeah.
God
So
bless
now we
Josh
just have
Levy
to
for
wait.
charging him.
Right. So now we just have to wait to see what happens. The hearing that was supposed to take place, I read on Mizzy's page that it wasn't really a big deal, that it wasn't a big deal hearing, that they have now rescheduled another date into the future again. So there's just no way to know for sure when his trial would even start. But one of the big news that came out was that the feds have taken the death penalty off the table.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean, I
I
am not a
I
death
hope that.
penalty person per se. I don't like it. I don't like it. That's just my personal view. But what are your thoughts
I
on
mean, I
that?
was raised in Catholic school, so I don't necessarily align with that. My very sister Helen Prejean solution is to put them in a dog crate for 50 years and feed them vegan dog food. I think you do suffer a lot more and cry every night.
Well,
Um, and I do think it means that he's probably giving them actionable information,
mhm,
which I pray that's what it means.
right,
Because and what happens to him is the minimum is life in prison. He will be in that little
right,
shoebox forever. So
right. No parole.
so give him 60 years of jail food. He'll cry himself to sleep, and there won't be, every night before he goes to bed, she will be one of the last things he thinks about, and one of the first things he thinks about when he opens his eyes. He will have a lot of time to think about what he did. And
I hope so.
I'm not judge, jury, or executioner, so I don't, kind of death penalty or not. I think that's kind of maybe a question for, how her family feels about it or and
But
whatnot.
first we have to get through a trial because he's pleading not guilty,
Sure.
and we have to hope
And
that
yeah,
there's
he
enough
is.
evidence for a jury to convict him, or he could walk.
Sure. Yeah.
There's still that
Well, I don't think the
possibility.
feds would have indicted him if they didn't have enough, because usually those are pretty solid
Yes,
cases.
yes, I have
And
read
they
that,
were,
but
and like
still
I
the
said, they
jury.
were pulling similar things with other victims. So whatever they didn't have from Sandra, the feds watched in real time as they did the exact same things, like down to picking up the phone and calling an abuser. They did the exact same playbook. It's a playbook, which is wildly concerning.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
It's
hopefully this
very
will deter them from doing this
well.
anymore.
They had a master to, to look up to all those years, and Jeffrey Epstein, who was out there
Oh
free as
yeah,
a bird doing all of his nefarious, nasty criminal activity. And I'm sure people in high power knew of his existence way before the public did, knew what he was up to. He
yep.
was right there
Billy
in
Farwell doesn't live too far from his compound.
isn't that
There's something
interesting?
about that state.
Well, didn't you
Uh,
mention something to me about Giselle too? About
definitely.
not Giselle. What I for Maxwell. I always want to call her Giselle, like a Jezebel. But Maxwell, Jazane. How do you say her name? Jazane or Jazine?
It's
Um,
Lane. Lane.
yes, J- yes, Maxwell.
Yeah.
You said
Yeah.
something about in
Yep.
Twitter. You made a comment to me about her.
Was it that she was a resident of Massachusetts when she was arrested?
Right,
Because she was.
right, and something
Yeah. She,
about who.
Manchester by the Sea.
That's it. Yep. Wow. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's
So she was here, and so whatever weird situation is, they're probably dealing with a lot of fallout in Massachusetts that they're being guarded about, which I understand. You have to protect victims. But if you want a joyride, I think I sent you the Muck Rock stuff where you can read about her husband being scared of a teeny girl and a baby riding a golf cart. That was pretty funny.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Thank you. I've
but
appreciated
yeah, they
everything.
were. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I appreciate everything you've sent my way, and I feel so much more knowledgeable thanks to you and Mizzy and Barbara and all of you that have stood for Sandra. And there'll be more for us to talk about. I really am hopeful that more evidence will come out against some of these other men,
Me
and that
too.
we'll have more to talk about in the new year. That's really
Me
my
too.
hope. And, will we find out who actually fathered Sandra's child? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't, a lot of people say it doesn't matter, but I think that it does matter because I think that's another person that had groomed her and was abusing her. And so to me, it sort of
Mhm.
does matter who the father is because they're complicit in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think it is very relevant because she was being passed around and trafficked by police officers. I think it absolutely does matter, especially because of all the very incestuous social connections and the retaliation other victims have experienced.
Yes.
I think it is relevant. If it is a uniformed officer of the law that participated in that cover up, or was given the task of investigating some piece of it, or is involved themselves in targeting other victims. Yeah, I think that it is a concern, and
It
hopefully
just
that they hold them all accountable.
I know, I agree, and it makes you wonder, like, how many of them are out there that have done the math and are wondering, "Uh-oh, was that my child?" And, do they have any
Right.
way of, proving it? So, it's gonna be,
Hold
very
on.
fascinating.
Brian
Yeah, go ahead.
Tully actually ran trainings that are I don't know the exact vernacular he used, but basically he uses genetic databases and to do the so figure it out. Brian Tully could figure it out. He trains other cops how to do just that.
That's
So
right, that's right. Well,
just some food for thought.
I am hoping and praying that we find out more information in this new year and that we end up finding out what's going on. I mean, has he been cooperating? Has he been naming names? Why this constant delay, delay, delay? Was it all just involved with the taking the death penalty off the table? Is that what all these delays have been about? Or is he cooperating and giving up people that helped him get away with this? It's going to be very telling and very just fascinating to see what happens. But for her family's sake and for everybody, and you included, and Mizzy and Barbara, that have been on the ground, Diana, everybody else that's been on the ground, Diane. I really want this to be over sooner than later. I mean, I want him to pay for his sins and for, I mean, only God can do that, but I want him to pay for his crimes. I want him to go, I want to see him go to jail. So we'll just keep up with this. I'd love to have you back anytime after the new year, whenever you want to come back. You're welcome to stay on with me. I'm just going to go over some highlights of what we talked about on Social Change Warriors this last year. Let me put this back up here for everybody. And oh, just a second. Well, I'll wait till the end to bring that one up. I want to show everybody who I've been advocating for again this year, but we'll put that towards the end. So what I wanted to say is I found this really interesting holiday meme because this is such an interesting debate every year. Ever since the Merry Christmas police started putting people down for saying happy holidays, which was probably 15, 20 years ago now, when it was just an effort to include everyone. Nobody is taking your Christmas away, people. Okay, let's get this straight. I love Christmas. I'm a big Christmas person. I'm a Christian. I've gone to church my whole life. When I say happy holidays, it's just because it's inclusive. It includes everything going on from Kwanzaa to Hanukkah to Christmas to holiday, New Year's. So happy holidays is just a nice, easy way to say it when you're out and about. Nobody's trying to steal your Christmas. So everyone needs to settle the hell down about that and just be grateful that we have so many things to celebrate in the month of December. And so I made a little list for everybody that who doesn't maybe know that this is what goes on in December. You've got World AIDS Day on December 1st, which has now come and gone. St. Nicholas Day, Western only, that was December 6th, which was actually my wedding anniversary. Human Rights Day, December 10th. We've got St. Lucius Day, December 13th. Lucy's Day. Lucius? Is that St. Lucius, like the island?
Lucia.
St. Lucia. Yeah, I don't even know what that is. I honestly do not know what that is. I'm going to have to look that up and we'll report back. We've got December Hanukkah from December 15th through 22, which is an 8-day Jewish festival. Most of you know about Hanukkah. You got the Wright Brothers Day on the 17th. You've got winter solstice, shortest day of the year, on the 21st. Of course, Christmas Eve. They didn't put on this list for some reason, but we've got Christmas Eve, the 24th. Christmas Day, the 25th, Boxing Day in Canada and the UK, and first day of Kwanzaa on the 26th. And then Kwanzaa runs for 7 days celebration. And then you've got New Year's Eve, December 31st. So happy holidays encompasses all of this, because who's going to walk around saying all of this, right? You're not going to walk around saying all of that. So that's where the whole happy holidays came from. And I still am completely just baffled that anybody would be upset by that or offended by that. So I tend to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, because that just kind of keeps me from getting harassed by people. But generally, I love to just wish everybody a happy holiday, whatever it is you celebrate on this list. All of it, some of it, or none of it. I still wish you happy holidays. So that was where I came up with this, because it included all the mains on here. I thought that was, oh, thank you. It's a Swedish or Danish tradition. Oh, thank you so much, Diane. I had never heard of that one, so I was really interested by that. There's a Rosa Parks Day in December now too. That wasn't on that list, but I know for a fact is in December, celebrating the life of Rosa Parks and her justice and her advocacy. So yeah, so that's what I wanted to just show at this moment. So I came up with this little thumbnail here with all these faces, and somebody put something up on my Twitter X, and I didn't get a chance to hear back from them. I don't know if they wrote me back, but they said something about what's up with all the promo photos. Well, I don't consider these promo photos. These are all the people that I talked about extensively in 2025. This is Social Change Warriors recap of everybody that we talked about in detail in 2025. And then, of course, the rest of the meme was this cracked fusion and complete breakup of many people in the free care and read movement who used to get along and used to be kind to each other and would come on each other's live stream shows. And then, one after another, it started with the big, war between Aiden and Sean on the Gulf, and accusations flying amongst all of their supporters and back and forth. And then that was the first real big division, Idly, in the Free Karen Read movement. That was last November. And that really split. I mean, that really split night and day, the Free Karen Read movement into two. One side of the track, the other side of the track, one side of an earthquake, the other side of the fault. And then Karen Read, I believe, and Sean had a falling out. And now, of course, Karen Read and Aiden have had a falling out. And now the Young Jerks and Aiden have a falling out. And JFK and James from the JFK show falling out. And everybody's having a falling out with this man who used to be called not Haley Walbrick after he came out, but originally he was Haley Walbrick, and he was supposedly a journalist. I guess I don't have a larger picture of that. He was a journalist who was undercover for his own safety because he was an advocate and he was always uncovering nefarious activities, allegedly. And then eventually somebody outed him and he had to come out and admit who he was. And there was a lot of craziness on Twitter X and almost scandalous things going on with that. And then he said who he was based in broils. And then he became everybody's worst nightmare, basically, is the only way I can put it. Anybody that would get in a Twitter war with someone, he would choose a side. And I don't know how he determined this. I'd love to interview him. Jason, I'd love to interview you because you went after me for a while. You harassed me for like 6 weeks only because I had an opinion on something, my own opinion. I'm allowed to have an opinion. This is America, as far as I'm still concerned. And I had an opinion. And so he didn't like my opinion, and someone that I had the opinion about, he decided to take her side of it over mine, which my side had 100% truth, and harassed me, and then harassed numerous other people. Thank God he forgot about me. And I just blocked him. I quit talking about him. I didn't want to be in my name coming out of his mouth anymore. And then he just went on to harass countless other people. I don't even know what the numbers are now. But there are people that think that he's been in the right, that he is the savior of women, that he advocates for women who have been abused or who have been victims. But I want to know the proof of that, because all I've ever seen him do is talk about Karen Read and John O'Keefe. And he believes that John O'Keefe was, in a fight. He was basically kind of Aiden's right-hand man for a while. I know that he was at a lot of his fundraisers and his different parties that he hosted. And, but I personally never cared for him because of what he did to me, where he decided to make me a villain and blast my name on his Twitter account and talk about me and on. And other people that I came to care about in the movement, he harassed and doxed. So I don't understand why and how anybody's supporting that kind of behavior, and why he doesn't just jump on and apologize and say he got carried away and that he didn't, and he doesn't mean it and he doesn't want to do it anymore. What the hell, right? And then
I think he's on somebody else's agenda and maybe not his own. Is probably
very possible. Then you've got this John Barron account in the fracture here, causing all kinds of havoc and posting nasty, mean things about people and constantly commenting about everything and anything. This person is getting paid by someone, in my opinion, Idly, because he's on Twitter X all the time. And he's constantly going after different people involved in all kinds of nefarious gossip and just ridiculous nonsense. But is it ridiculous nonsense when you're actually doxing someone or calling someone's work and trying to get them fired and harming their reputation? Then it's not ridiculous nonsense. You're actually committing crimes. There's just no way to prove it. And there's so much protection now for social media of what people can get away with on social media. It's utterly stunning. And yes, Diana, she said, I look at all of that as noise, and it's why I chose not to engage on Twitter. I completely understand, and I'm glad that you didn't. The thing I like about Twitter X is that you can have conversations with people that aren't in your same state, and you can all go on the thread and you can have conversations about evidence, about the trial. If you use it for good, it's a good platform. the teams I follow post updates on, I go there for scores, or I go there to find out about what's happening in college football and pro football, and on the news, I check there for the quick news of the day. Twitter X was meant to be a good platform, just like Facebook was meant to connect family. It was originally designed to connect you with people you couldn't find. That if you all went to Facebook, you might find somebody from high school or college, or you might be able to keep in touch better with your family that lives across, the pond in Europe, and you can post photos. And all of these platforms started out with good intentions, but there are not good people in the world, Ida Lee, as we know from the Sandra Birchmore case, the John O'Keefe case, all these cases that you've been following. There are nefarious people out there that just want to constantly wreak havoc because they live off of drama. And then we go from drama, though, to actually committing crimes that are hard to prove, that if they were happening in the neighborhood, if they were stalking you, if they were following you, coming to your house, following you to your job, they could get arrested. But when they're stalking you on Twitter X, when they're defaming you, hurting your reputation, they just keep getting away with it. And very few people have been kicked off of Twitter X that have been involved in this noise, as Diane put it. But it's been very detrimental to a lot of people. A lot of people in the Free Karen Read movement and in the anti section, those that don't agree with us that Karen is innocent, those that believe Karen did hit down with her car, many of them have been harmed and have been doxxed, and their families are scared. This is just all nonsense, and it's not. It's just horrible that it's all going on in this day and age, and that people are allowing it. That we're continuing to not stand up more against this type of bullying and harassment and behavior. But what do you do? I mean, like, I made a post a couple of weeks ago. What's a girl to do? Because you can only report someone so much. If Twitter and Facebook, if they're not going to do anything about it, if they're not going to remove that person, then you have to block them. You have to disengage from people that are harassing and bullying you, and just try to focus on the advocacy. Because Diane is right. What's gone on Twitter X and Facebook for the past 6 months is a lot of noise. It's a lot of people that are jealous of other people's success, that don't agree with people's opinions on the cases, that are supporting people that other people believe are involved. And then they're all arguing and fighting and calling each other names, whether it be body shaming or intelligence shaming, house shaming, you name it. People have done it. It's beyond unbelievable to me. I have never seen anything like it. And so I haven't talked much about it on Friday Night Lies. I've only mentioned it here and there because I did get bullied in the beginning, and I don't want to be bullied again. So I have tried to stay away from it, tried to stay away from talking about any of these people that are doing the bullying, because I just don't want to be back in it again. But I did stand up for a lot of people, and I still do that. And I've stood up for you when people have bullied you. I have stood up for people being bullied throughout all of this, because I can't just sit there and do that. I'm not good. I don't have to live stream about it, but on Twitter X, I do stand up when I see someone being bullied and called out, and I don't understand it, and I want to know why. But the problem is you've got one person being bullied, and then the other person claims they're being bullied by that person. You got two people both claiming they're being harassed and bullied. How are we supposed to know what the hell is going on? How are we supposed to know who is actually telling us the truth? Because there's been so many lies, and that's why this conversation is great for Friday Night Lies. There's been so many lies told by a group of like 20 people in the last 6 months, constantly on Twitter X and in their live streams. I don't know who to believe anymore. And that's why I've never completely gone off of I've stayed on the train in the middle of the track. I haven't jumped off. I can't, I don't know who's telling the truth anymore, Ida Lee.
I think there's I'm kind of with you in the try to stay on the track. I have noticed a lot of targeting of women. That is one thing that I'll hit the stop to
Right.
advocate for another woman. But yeah, there is a lot of noise. Like Diane said, it is a lot of noise. Maybe look the other way, because case.
I mean, if it's not affecting you directly, if it's not affecting you directly, Ida Lee, or Diane directly, or anyone else that's involved in advocating for Karen or John or Sandra or Anna Walsh, then yeah, it's better just to disengage and walk away. But sometimes for me, because I don't like seeing bad people get away with shit. I don't like seeing drama filled people who all they want to do all day long is put people down and make up lies about people. It irritates the crap out of me. And I'm on Twitter X because I'm trying to advocate and I'm trying to
They
use
do
it
it behind burner accounts.
Yes, they have burner accounts. They have
Do their
fake Twitter accounts that they have like
well,
4 or 5.
a lot of the attacks are not real. I mean, there's obviously people operating the accounts, but yeah, it's a pseudonym that they're using to target women who are advocating
Right.
for what they believe, and done in such a low rent, disgusting way, body shaming them as mothers, as partners. I just, yeah, it's very fortunate, and obviously some of these accounts are, it's orchestrated to some extent. Act to everybody's documents,
Right.
as some random person from, I don't know, it's obviously somebody with vested interests, and weirdly a vested interest in attacking a lot of women, which I really
Yeah, and it's
women
hard to
that
know.
I might not even agree with, but
Right.
but attacked for advocating for what they believe in. So
Yeah, and are these
it's really
fake accounts,
unfortunate.
there's real humans behind these fake accounts, but what is their motive? What is their end game? Are they doing this just because they love to create this kind of drama, or is someone paying them to create this kind of drama as a distraction? It's hard to know for sure. I'd
Yeah.
like to think it'll all come out in the wash here at some point and it'll just be done and over with, because it's hard to go on there and try to advocate and read good posts like you make and read good advocacy posts like Mizzy makes and Barbara, and all there's just so many of you that post on Twitter X that are Free Karen Reed and Justice for John O'Keefe, but I have to weed through all this crap because these people are involved in all of this, and so I have to weed through that in order to get to the good stuff. I have to weed through all of this hate and this constant warring going on between these different groups of people. Now they started doing spaces. Have you been to any of these spaces where they're trying to rep their side? Oh, I think she froze. Let's hope she comes back. I'm curious if any of you want to let me know on the replay if any of you have been to any of these spaces where both sides have been trying to rep their side on this. I've listened into a couple of them, but it just makes my head hurt because, again, how do I know who's telling the truth now? How do any of us who are just trying to advocate for Karen and John and Sandra and Anna and others around the country, how do any of us know even who to believe, other than that we just back out and get out of it? But it hurts my soul when I see people like Etsy getting bullied and harassed when all she ever did, from what we can see, is do good works, is get involved with the Karen Reed case because she really truly wanted to help Karen, and she wanted to be part of her team to help in any way that she could, because she had already been involved in getting in advocacy for years prior to Karen Reed. Many people that advocated for Karen Reed had already been advocating for things in their own communities, just like you had. You had been already advocating for Sandra Birchmore and prior to the Karen Reed case, and like John Camo and all of the wonderful people that have gone to the select board meetings in Canton and have taken their time
Yes.
to go in person and call out this, really bad culture that has gone on in a very small town. And it takes a lot of guts to do that, because if you live in a small town, everyone knows who you are. Everyone knows your children. You're risking your children getting bullied or even harmed possibly. And what happened with Rita, if you recall, when Rita and I forgot who the other woman was, there was poison put in balloons and thrown on their lawns and killed their flowers in their gardens. That's a crime. And that's scary
Yeah.
because what if that person escalates to something far worse than that? The far worse than that is harm to Rita or harm to these
Right.
other advocates. So what was going on during trial one was really quite scary and very just outrageous criminal behavior. And this is a small town. People know each other. So it took a lot of courage for them to continue to protest, advocate. But a protest isn't a bad word. A lot of people think protest means bad. No, protest just means I'm pissed. This is not cool. This particular law sucks, or this person is getting the bad treatment. I am out here to protest it. It doesn't have to. It's not a bad word. It's a good thing. Harmless, nonviolent protests are essential to getting laws changed and to getting these criminals out of Clark County, Indiana, and out of all these other towns in Kentucky where they had all those officers that were fired for more white collar crimes. But now, again, the crimes in Canton and Stoughton are not white collar crimes. If crimes are actually being committed, they're actual felonies, and jail time needs to ensue. And if people are actually being unalived because of the actions of these people, then obviously that is another set of circumstances entirely. But
it makes me wonder to what extent the Canton police have, I know my personal experience with them, but to what extent the Canton police have gone and actually investigated the harassment of others in the community beyond the McCabe and the Albert families, because
right.
it doesn't feel like our resources are being utilized to distribute equal protection under the law. It feels like
Right. Now,
if it socially suits the whatever the larger, not larger, but the those in power's position is, it's going to not be looked into, and it might even exacerbate the harassment or crimes being committed against people that have differing viewpoints.
right. And small towns, this is historical for small towns, though, to have. I read something interesting that Jen Altman is a big supporter of the Karen Reed movement, and she's quite a friend of Aiden and a supporter of his whole movement. And she wrote something interesting that somebody put up somehow. I mean, they've been showing each other's private text messages to each other. They've been stabbing each other in the back left and right for weeks. And I came across something that she had put up something about, well, as soon as the trial's over, or what, I don't even know if it was the trial or if it was recently. I don't remember exactly. Sorry, but something to the effect of all the cool people are going to get together. And that just really rubbed me the wrong way, because that just so reminded me of high school. A certain group of people deciding that they're cool and you're not, and what it takes to be cool and what it takes to be in with the cool crowd. And it just gave me like a stomach ache of thinking back on what that was like. And even in college, not so much though. College is very, very different animal because you just got so many different people, but high school definitely. And why is there a cool club in a murder investigation? I mean, I understand that true crime, that they get carried away. Sometimes they've got they've got their own conferences now. But the only reason you're at a conference, people, the only reason you're part of a movement is because someone died and somebody is without their family member. And in many cases, the crimes are unsolved and the families are living in limbo, like many of the families I've advocated for this past year. So you really have to check yourself at the door when you're finding that you're getting too much joy out of the pain and suffering and death of other humans. It's one thing to be an advocate, yes, but to be so involved that you're creating like a club and your entertainment value isn't high enough for you on any given night. Wow, like, sorry that my family member died and
Yes.
the live streamers aren't entertaining you enough. there's just so much I've learned vitally in the last year of being involved in this live streaming situation with YouTube. And I'm trying to always do my best to make sure people understand I am not an entertainment channel. I'm an education channel. I'm an advocacy channel. And sometimes we have to have some low key chatter. We have to, because we can't advocate and keep going and try to fight for justice if we're not taking care of our own mental health. So I have to have days off. You have to have days off where you just try not to think about it. The families who've been affected, they don't have that preview. They don't have that ability. They will be affected for the rest of their lives. And that is horrible, and it's sad and terrible. And I think sometimes one of the things I caution, oh, that was just my alarm to myself that I have to stand up. What I caution a lot of us that are true advocates and justice seekers, not just true crime junkies, but actually trying to advocate and work with families and get to know the families like you have, and on the boots on the ground, that you have to take days off. You can't just be so involved like the families are, because you can't, because you will go down the tubes. You will end up with terrible, almost like survivor's guilt to a certain degree, like a lot of family members have, but you'll have compassion fatigue. And that is a real psychological problem. And it also becomes body-wise symptoms. You can get headaches, sick to your stomach, lose your appetite. All kinds of bad things can happen. So you really have to be careful when you're in this field, whether you're being paid or you're a volunteer, of working with families as a victim advocate or working in the justice, for area, that you have to take days off, and you have to think just of yourself and your family and your children and your loved ones, because you'll burn out, and then you'll be no good to the families that you're trying to stand for. And I'm
I think,
experienced some of that compassion fatigue.
yeah, I think you made a good point about the entertainment piece of it. Like for some of us that live here, that our families are here, it's hard to watch all these people descend upon a situation and make it into what like an SVU episode. Victims don't want victims want advocacy, they want healthy support, and when you see it turn into a circus sideshow, it's scary. When you witness people weaponizing other human beings' wellness, frankly, because you've already had your wellness weaponized in like the case with Sandra and other victims like that by the people who are tasked with helping you.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I can't imagine how John's family feels, but the same kind of way that it is made into his kids and his parents and his
Right.
brother, it kind of gets their feelings around it get kind of lost, and
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. And
It is. It is. It's sad. But I think Diane just said the study of sociology is such a big factor in everything that has transpired. It would be a great PhD dissertation. Oh, yes. I said that.
yes.
I posted about that many times, Diane. I always post about that this Karen Reed, the death of John O'Keefe, and then Karen Reed being arrested, and everything that's happened, and these movements forming, and then all these side movements forming, and then people jumping ship from other movement to other. It's like an experience of person and environment, and these things happen in our communities, and only do we know about them when in our communities, because our own little problems that happen in our communities don't make national news. Typically, not many homicide cases make national news. Many missing persons cases never make national news. And so you learn about this in your own societies, in your own communities, when these different fractions happen, and people have arguments and issues over policy or laws or what land is being used for or building permits or on and on and on. But this case ended up on the national platform, worldwide platform, literally. And you are right, Diane. It would make an amazing dissertation for a psychology or even a sociology student. Absolutely. Well, let me bridge for a moment just back into again the quick review of where of where we've been and what we covered. Um, Again, this was just part of my example of what happens when things go bad. I mean, uh, Aiden had that amazing show at the Wilbur that a lot of people went to and said great things about, and Jimmy was there, Auntie Deb. I met Auntie Deb online when he first started doing his parodies. I emailed him a couple times and thanked him for making me laugh in a situation that's so sad and so horrible. And his parodies of the characters, many saw as disrespectful, but you couldn't help but have some you're natural when you're not the family member, when it's not your family member, when you're just following a case, watching the court case, your things are going to happen that are going to make you laugh. Even the judge laughs, even the prosecutors and the defense attorneys laugh at times in cases, because that's just human. It's going to happen. And so for me, his parody was helpful. It helped take my mind off of how horrible case it was and how terrible the situation was, because you can't make this shit up, Ida Lee. That the things that went on the stand with all of the witnesses that Jimmy ended up parodying when he was still just Auntie Deb before he told everybody his name, it was gold for him because he's very good at it. So how could he not basically act out these characters, because they put on these acts on the witness stand that the likes that we've never seen before in court cases, and we may never see again. We may never see again, because it's I mean, Aiden said this many times on his live streams. There'll probably never be a case again like the death of John O'Keefe and the case of Karen Reed, because so many things happened, so many things that just off the cuff, beyond the pale, any other name you want to put on it, slogan you want to give it. I called it the theater of the absurd, because it was an 8-week trial and then it hung. So then we had another trial, and it was just the testimony and the what was presented to us at times was so unbelievable that we couldn't wrap our heads around it. And all of these characters, like I was saying last week, the famous song, "Jokers to the left of me, clowns to the right, here I am stuck in the middle with you." And I changed it to "Jokers to the left of me" because I found all these officers to be disrespectful of the office of police officer, with the way they handle themselves during the investigation and handle themselves for the trial. It was so off-putting for me as a retired police officer. So I put the jokers over here, and then I had to call everybody over here a liar except for John O'Keefe, because everybody lied to some degree. And if people don't realize that, if everybody that's on the anti-Karen Reed side, if you haven't figured this out, going through 2 trials, that numerous people either told half the truth, none of the truth, or they completely left out what they should be telling us on the stand. You did not watch the trials. You stayed in your silo. You were supporting your friends to such a degree that you couldn't see the forest through the trees. And that does not help John O'Keefe. That does not get justice for John O'Keefe, because when injustice becomes law, then resistance becomes duty. And that's what you've been doing, Ida Lee and Mizzy and Barbara and everyone who's been advocating for Anna Walshe and for John O'Keefe and for freeing Karen Reed, who most of us believe, 85% of the public, that she did not hit John O'Keefe with her car. So if you were part of the Just en Route advocacy, that happened before I started learning much about John O'Keefe. But then I learned of Just en Route through Anna Marie, whose brother also passed away, but not in the state of Massachusetts. Her brother, Thomas Purdy, passed away out west in Las Vegas. And he was killed in custody in a sheriff's department jail, because he was arrested after having a mental health breakdown, because our police and our sheriffs do not understand enough about mental health. So I met Anna Marie through the Karen Reed trial, and she live streamed with me last year. In fact, she was my very first episode of Calling Out Corruption, was with Anne Marie. And thank you, Anne Marie. I don't know if you still watch my channel, but thank you so much for being my very first episode on my channel of Calling Out Corruption and My Life Mattered. And I am so incredibly sorry for the loss of your brother, and that you did not get justice, that no one that unalived him that night by holding him down and suffocating him was ever fired or relieved of their duties. And the same exact thing happened. Anna Marie knows Just en Route's sister, and they have their own website, which I'll put that back up again on my Twitter and on my Facebook, for families whose loved ones were unalived in custody, or while they were being arrested by the police. And in Just en Route's case, he was shot over 31 times, which makes utterly no sense to me as a former police officer. There's no there's just no sense to that. That makes absolutely, even if he did have a gun, which he did not have a gun, he would never have been needed to be shot that many times. That's completely ludicrous. And how there wasn't an investigation into this after everything they did and all the court hearings that they went to, it really breaks my heart. So now they're trying to advocate for an independent investigation. And I put the link to their you can sign a petition for this. So I put a link to it. It's on my Twitter account. I have it pinned, and I'm going to leave it up there for a few weeks during the holidays because I won't be doing a lot of advocacy over the holidays. So please,
Do you know
if you want.
one of the things that I've noticed with this is mental health as an excuse for police misuse of force. My
Right,
cousin passed away in Massachusetts in a similar incident back in July, where he was pigpiled on by a large group of police officers. And right away, it was a mental health episode, or it's used as an excuse, kind of like with Sandra and Ellen. They're writing it off as suicide in these
right,
cases, writing it off as mental health. Well, if
right.
it was truly a mental health incident, what did you do wrong? Either way, something went wrong where you did your job
Exactly.
improperly, and you should
Exactly.
be held accountable, period. Because the vast majority, so when I was running for school committee, I went around asking, talking to the police, talking to the firefighters, and the spike in mental health calls, it was, like 75%. And that's the majority of calls they're getting, people in those kind of crises. So if they're not able to safely handle these, then they probably don't have any business in police work.
Absolutely. And you're right. And that's the problem, is that we need more training for police and sheriff's departments, and even for FBI, anyone that deals with suspects, more information on mental health. Just en Route and Thomas Purdy
Mhm.
should have been taken to a hospital. They should have been
Yes.
evaluated for having a mental health crisis, which can lead to paranoia. It can sometimes, mental health crisis involves schizophrenia, where they're hearing voices, they're seeing things, they're actually seeing people trying to harm them. It's
Mhm.
and so there never, if never should these people be harmed themselves unless there's no other way. If they have a weapon, or if they're attacking someone, obviously the police have to protect the public. But that
Yes.
this case is just so sad, and he should have never been unalived. They should have been able to take him into custody safely. Thomas Purdy was already in custody. There was no reason that he was hogtied and held down and asphyxiated when he was having a mental health crisis. It's terrifying for families
Awful.
who have children or adult children who are in mental health crisis. They're afraid to call the
Yes.
police. They're scared
Absolutely.
that their person is going to get killed by the police.
And it seems
It's
like a
just really,
valid fear. That seems like a valid fear,
yes,
when you're
it
seeing
is a
these kind
valid
of
fear.
incidents play out on the national level over and over again. Like something's broken in the system, like you were saying, like training and how they're approaching these situations. Yeah, it's scary. You think to yourself, this person's in crisis. I
Hmm.
know this institution is tasked with that, but are they safe? Is it going to be safer to, have them here and let it play out here? So I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Diane posted, my job required me to interact with MSP almost daily, Massachusetts State Police, for those of you outside of Mass. It is why I began standing out. Yeah, when you see things, see what happened. Uh-oh.
No, that's valid. That seems, somebody in the know, and that drove her to want to stand up and get loud. and I
had to do it
appreciate
because
it.
my son is arriving home and the doggies are going. They were quiet. They've been sleeping this whole 2 hours, Idly. Usually they wake up
Oh, good
halfway through.
babies.
I usually have to take a break and let them out because the older one's 4 and my little guy, he's only a year old. So usually about halfway, that's why my alarm went off to tell me to stand up. Let's take a break. Let's take that. But we've been having such a great conversation. I didn't want to take a break. I really appreciated and having Diane and Kathy with us tonight in chatting in the friend zone has been great. And for those of you that are watching and not chatting, thank you for being with us live tonight. What I plan on doing, and I want to ask your thoughts on this because it's just something I've given some thought to, is after the new year, I want to go back and revisit some of the testimony that I covered for the past year of some of the key players and kind of point out what I felt were very interesting, difficult. It's okay, Tanner. Very difficult testimony that didn't make a lot of sense to a lot of us, and for me, really helped lean into the fact that John was not hit by a car, that he had to have been hurt in this what I considered an after bar fight, and then a framing. So I'm thinking about going back over just some of the testimony, and I was kind of enlightened to do that by let me pull up here just a moment, because if in all likelihood, if it was an after bar party, if I am right, and if all of us are right who believe that, and he was hit and then fell and hit his head and passed away, if just one person in that group that knew that it had happened at that moment, if that was just two Brians and possibly a Colin, or just two Brians, and they panicked and decided to cover it up. I think the whole framing came later on in the night when all the butt dials were going on and all the bizarre behavior. But if one of them would have just said with a cool head, no, we can't do that. Let's just tell everybody what happened and everyone will believe us, and it'll be okay. It'll be not okay for John's family, but no one will think that this was on purpose and there won't be criminal charges. It will be an accident. None of the framing, the hate, the grifting, the harassment, none of that would have existed. And John may have survived if they had called 911 the minute that he hit the floor and hit his head. If it's possible he could have survived. I mean, the medical examiners say that he had a catastrophic head injury, so he probably wouldn't have, but we'll never know. We'll never know. And so I think if you are advocating for justice for John O'Keefe and you still believe, based on all the evidence and the 2 trials worth of testimony from the expert witnesses, that there's no way that he was hit by a car, then we have to keep advocating for him. And the best way to do that is to go back over this testimony that has a lot of holes in it, a lot of lies, in my opinion, and continue to advocate for John O'Keefe on Friday Night Lies. That's what I would like to do and will plan to do, also covering any other cases that come up. Now, as we know, Brian Walshe was, see if I think I have, see if I have the slide for, not sure if I have this one up or not. This is all relating to Karen Reed, so I don't think I added anything to do with Brian, but Brian Walshe is, the jury's out, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with this case. It's a lot of circumstantial evidence involved, and I don't know.
This has been I was very much upset by this case, and maybe posting about this around the time I was posting a lot about Sandra Birchmore 2023. But it's scary when you see these kind of things, intimate partner violence, the way it is playing out in Norfolk County. Why are so many of these situations leading to homicides?
Exactly.
Where are things broken on a larger scale?
Mhm.
And
It's
culturally, how, like,
yeah.
what ethos are we cradling as a community? What are we teaching our sons that this kind of thing is playing out on repeat?
Yeah.
um
3 a day. three women a day are unalived by someone they know. And of that, 62% is their husband, boyfriend, or fiance, or
Right.
ex-boyfriend. The other percentage is someone they know. So either a
Yes.
new friend that they just met, or someone they met online, or another family member. But 3 women a day, that is a statistic that's just mind-boggling. And how can that even be possible? Diane said, for Friday Night Live, simultaneously compare the Ellie's testimony and Karen Reed to their testimony in Walshe case will enlighten you. Yes, I know. I just watching the Walshe case was very enlightening. I agree with you. That's a great idea. I could definitely look into that. Yes, Buchanan, Fanning, pretrial are 2 that immediately come to mind. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
There's something about Fanning. Now, I'm not from Massachusetts. I know very little about him. He really had, his name was kept out of most of the Karen Reed, John O'Keefe trials, not even really mentioned very much either in the Sandra. I mean, it's weird. Like they're protecting him because he's command staff.
Yes.
But the things I've read on your posts and on others' posts, I don't get a good feeling about him. I'm wondering if something will come out in this next year.
If you read some of the Sandra Birchmore documents, there was a lot of law enforcement that jumped to conclusions that she killed herself. And in command staff, he has that, that authority in these investigations where he's like directing it and dictating things. And he is a Stoughton High School graduate. So,
That's right.
he's part of the good old boys club. So
part of the good old boys club.
he
Absolutely.
shouldn't have been investigating that to begin with. But yeah, I think she's on to something. You can see it's a full display when you put the Walsh case like side by side with Karen Reed or kind of what we know about Birchmore. It's weaponized competence is what they're utilizing to harm a lot of women in the community. Obviously they did a little more due diligence with Anna Walsh. But oh, well, we didn't get a statement from somebody we knew was there until a year later. Oh, Rob Devine, who, we got the guy that picked her up at the middle school. So let's all, did they ask the right questions? Did they go down the right rabbit holes? There's a handbook that the MPTC Training Academy, did they, which I brought up for, stuff that I've got going on, like, let me see, did they do this according to the book? Because I'm kind of, having a science background, you follow a procedure. You're given a procedure in a lab because you want to have reproducible results, reliable results, and they circumvent a lot of that and make excuses for one another. So it's wild.
It's policies and procedures, and it's what you're trained to do, and it's your training. You're an in-service. Police go to in-service every 3 months, and they go through all different trainings that have to do with anything and everything that would have to be done in the line of duty. That's why I always said that the missteps that were made in the investigation of John's death are inexcusable. There's no way that a police department would be that bad. That's why I knew there had to be somebody with the puppet strings telling them.
I don't know. Can't believe they definitely need a little bit more training. They did try to buy 10 riot shields, money they should be using on domestic violence training. So
and they may need more training, but they're not that bad. The mistakes made in the early investigation of the death of John O'Keefe they were told what to do and what not to do. There's no doubt in my mind about it. There's no way that a well-trained police department, most departments are well-trained, and even if they need a little more, even a small town like Canton would never make the mistakes that they made. And then you bring in the Massachusetts State Police with all the mistakes, not interviewing the kids in the truck. I mean, that's unbelievable. They were actual witnesses. More than Jen McCabe in the house kicking out the window is your key witness when you've got 3 young adults in a truck pulling up behind Karen Reed. They were your witnesses, and you don't interview them for what, 18 months? I think that was the time frame. I mean, it's just unbelievable to me, the missteps in that case. They didn't interview them because they arrested Karen so quickly, and they basically, this case closed. Karen did it. She's going to jail. We spent 2 days investigating this. That's enough. We've got enough. We've got everything we need. I
They
mean,
didn't bring them in for interviews, and then they kind of the way they use investigations or kind of like weaponize information and science in the
right,
court. It kind of bothered me. You know, using what should be tools for good in justice
right.
to create the end result they desired, you know, come hell or high water. Um,
Exactly.
there's I forget what case it was, but they were talking about, maybe it was the Miles King case, I believe, and they were talking about seeking DNA testing, and the particular method the Commonwealth was now years later. One, it's destructive testing, which means the sample is gone. There is no way for them to retest it. So
Right.
evidence is gone. It's a trust me, bro situation. But the
Exactly.
particular method they were using about like DNA on the bullet or something, not only was it destructive, but that particular scenario had basically been determined to not be reliable, and oh, we actually don't do this in the Commonwealth anymore because it is so unreliable. But yet still here are agents of the Commonwealth being funded by my tax dollars getting up there being like, no, but we don't care, we're still going to go for this pseudoscience because it could produce a result we want, and they'll never be able to verify it. Like, what in God's name are they even doing? That is not legitimate investigation
No.
strategies, and you're using broken tools. Like the what you're looking to do has already been discarded as a tool. So why still are you seeking to implement that?
Right.
That's
And that,
inherent bias. That's inherent bias.
exactly. And that's sort of what we saw in the second trial is they were kind of using the expert witnesses almost against each other in ways that they're not supposed to, because
Right.
so many people were then defaming and condemning on both sides the expert witnesses, but they're never supposed to be on anyone's side. They're
Right.
expert witnesses for a reason. You call them in to give their expert opinion on the situation, on the crime, on the evidence. And yet, in this case, it was almost as if the expert witnesses were then put on teams, Team Karen or Team Not Karen, Team Commonwealth, Team Karen. And that's never what witnesses are supposed to be used for. They're
Right.
literally brought in to prove a scientific aspect of the case that you're trying to use to either convict the person or get the person off. So you're
Right.
totally right. That was really well said, what you just shared with us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well,
Well,
thank you.
one more point, the Dauber standard in Massachusetts,
Oh,
kind
yes.
of allowing scientifically valid evidence into cases. It was developed in Massachusetts for a child's essay case. So,
Oh, it was.
yeah, so
I don't think a
it's
lot of
very
people know.
important.
Can you tell us a little bit more about it? I don't think a lot of people know.
I'll post about it.
That'd
I
be great.
don't
Yes,
all the
do a post
background, but
about it and I can share it on my channel as well, because I don't know that much about it at all. Well, thank you. I appreciate all the knowledge you brought tonight, sharing the
yeah, thank
insights
you.
of what it was like to be boots on the ground, and for all the advocacy that you have done in your community going back years. I hope people appreciate you in Canton, Massachusetts, in the area. I really hope they do, because you're an amazing hero, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better and to hopefully having you back in the new year when we're back continuing to cover the Sandra Birchmore Justice for Sandra, and we'll be finding out soon what happens with Brian Walshe, and obviously we'll do a recap of that after the holidays as well. So thank you for being our guest tonight. Thank you for being
Thank you
so
so much.
educated on everything Canton, and you take care of yourself and keep in touch and
Yes.
over the holidays.
All right, thank you. Thanks for giving a voice to the women of our community. I really appreciate it. It means a
You're
lot.
welcome. You can stay on with me. I just wanted to thank you before
Well,
we.
I gotta go Christmas shopping anyway.
All
Well,
right,
my kids are with dad tonight, so we're
good.
just
Go for it.
so
Thank you
enjoy
so
your
much.
night.
Okay,
Thank
take
you.
care. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. All right. Well, that was fantastic. What a knowledgeable Cantonite and Massachusetts. And we really appreciated having her on tonight. So I just wanted to end tonight with letting you all know that I definitely want to continue to talk about the witnesses in the Karen Read case, to continue to advocate for justice for John O'Keefe until somebody can prove to me that it was 100% not the people in the house that covered it up and had something to do with his death in the form of a fight that caused his injuries. The trial proved to me that it was that was the case. So until somebody else can prove different, I'm going to keep advocating for John O'Keefe, for justice for him, because he deserves it. And whoever unalived him that night because it was at some type of a fight, they need to step up and admit what they've done and take the blame. And if that's the case, I believe it is based on the evidence and the science. That's my opinion. But again, you can always be proven wrong sometimes. Sometimes science can trick you a little bit. That's what most of the people on the other side of the aisle believe, is that the science doesn't prove anything. But I don't agree. Science is obviously complicated, first of all, and there's a method to science. There's experiments that go on with science, and we saw those. We saw the 4 PhD, more than 4 PhD. There were probably 6 or 7 PhD, because I think Dr. Labosato has a PhD, and all the guys from ARCA were both PhD doctors, and Walshe was a PhD. So you saw a lot of PhD testimony that you could put in your head, wrap around your brain, and figure out that John was not hit by a car. It's really just simple as that most people keep going back to that even if you can't prove he was in a fight, it's been proved that he was not hit by a car. There's just not the science there for it. His injuries don't align to it. So we'll continue to advocate for John O'Keefe, obviously for Sandra Birchmore in the new year, and any other trials that come up. We're advocating for Suzanne Morphew and Suzanne Clark Simpson. Both of the trials of their husbands will be coming up this winter. Yes, my dear. And Tanner is ready to be taken outside for the night. I enjoyed meeting with Ida in person, Ida Lee, and I hope all of you did too. Thank you to everyone that has live streamed with us on Friday Night Lives and supporting everyone that we have advocated for. I'm going to put up the photographs of all of the victims that we have advocated for. We have met most of their families, or at least have conversed with them via an email, and we will continue to do so in 2026, hopefully until they get justice, however long that will take. Thank you so much to Diana and Kathy and anyone else that joined us in the friend zone tonight and were live with us. I truly appreciate you. And unless something major happens, I won't be live streaming again until that first week in January. And right now my little guy has to go out and use the bathroom. So I'm going to close off with our theme song and showing you the faces of those who were unalived by the hands of someone else. And we will continue to advocate with their families until they have justice. Thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, happy whatever you're celebrating, happy holidays. And I will see you all in 2026. So an early Happy New Year to all of you. And thank you for your support. My life mattered.
They try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badge of name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide, Together we rise, won't run nor hide. The stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives we can't just weep. Elected power but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight. For every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing. For the ones they try to bury within. It's just us, we're movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight. The heroes undo the harm. Calling out corruption, we'll stand tall. For justice and truth, we'll risk it all. My life mattered is the cry we sing. Together we rise, let freedom ring. They try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badge and name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight. For every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing. For the ones they try to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. The stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives we can't just weep. Elected power but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight. For every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing. For the ones they try to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight. The heroes undo the harm. Calling out corruption, we'll stand tall. For justice and truth, we'll risk it all. My